Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's High Density Explainer. We're unpacking the absolute most critical technical updates you need to know right now. Whether you're a cloud expert scaling up global infrastructure, a cybersecurity architect defending the perimeter, or an AI engineering lead pushing the limits of machine learning, you are in the exact right place. We've got a massive amount of raw data to get through today to keep you ahead of the curve, so let's jump right in.
Now, really quick before we get into the weeds, I do want to note that the initial summary for this explainer was put together using Gemini Notebook just to help structure our insights. But, and I want to be absolutely clear about this, every single data point, metric, and architectural update we're talking about today comes directly from verified public sources. We are dealing strictly with the facts straight from the documentation and security advisories.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to hit our top audio and video picks, dive into cloud and infrastructure updates, unpack some serious cybersecurity threat intel, go deep on AI and ML engineering, and finally wrap up with emerging tech.
All right, Section 1, top audio and video picks. Let's get straight to the essential media for IT leaders this week.
You know, the current media landscape perfectly captures the growing pains we're seeing in enterprise AI. If you're an engineering lead trying to figure out how to actually transition from traditional dev tools to production-ready AI, Adi Osmani's interview on The Pragmatic Engineer is literally a must-listen. For you AI architects drowning in multi-agent chaos, Rich Ziad on the Enterprise AI Show offers a brilliant reality check on when simpler pipelines just flat-out beat complex agent setups. CIOs, listen up. Dave Linthicom's latest episode is critical. He dives into the terrifying legal liabilities of using AI for high-stakes HR decisions, like layoffs. And finally, if you just need to cut through all the marketing hype, Eli Etherton on the Tech Report does an amazing job breaking down AI buzzwords. Definitely add these to your queue.
Moving right along to Section 2, Cloud and Infrastructure. We're tracking a massive shift in AWS access management right now.
So, AWS Lambda now supports complete JSON resource-based policies directly on functions. Historically, managing access meant you had to append individual permission statements one API call at a time. It was incredibly tedious. Now, security teams can define multiple principles, actions, and advanced condition blocks all in one single JSON document. You can enforce perimeter-level controls right on the function. But, and this is a huge but, updating a policy overwrites existing statements. So if you deploy these JSON policies via infrastructure as code, your state management has to be absolutely flawless. If it isn't, you run the risk of instantly wiping out service-linked permissions.
Over in the Microsoft ecosystem, the Azure SRE agent has hit general availability for regional virtual network integration. Basically, this allows autonomous diagnostic traffic to route strictly through your private subnets and egress controls. It's fantastic because it satisfies zero-trust boundaries by removing public internet exposure. However, there's a catch. Giving an automated agent internal route access directly into your core workload shifts the risk right to internal identity permissions. You absolutely have to implement explicit role-based access control to stop a compromised diagnostic agent from turning into a vehicle for lateral movement.
Google Cloud has injected Gemini-driven automation into its migration center, and it is eliminating up to 99% of manual inventory mapping. By ingesting VMware exports or cloud billing data, it auto-maps target instances and generates total cost of ownership models almost instantly. We are literally talking about shrinking financial modeling from months down to minutes. But architects, you have to treat these models purely as directional screening estimates. They rely on static data. They don't assess runtime dependencies or latency constraints. So do not commit to any infrastructure cutovers without proper technical discovery first.
Let's pivot to Section 3, Cybersecurity. We've got some stark, data-driven threat intel this week that should honestly have every security architect on high alert. CISA just dropped a joint advisory detailing concurrent red team assessments across two critical infrastructure orgs, and it is a perfect snapshot of enterprise defense right now. Organization A failed completely to detect lateral movement thanks to unmonitored alerts and operational silos. Organization B was way sharper. They rapidly quarantined endpoints right at initial access. But here's the kicker. Both organizations still suffered full domain and cloud compromises. Why? Because the red team just pivoted to identity misconfigurations. Endpoint detection is essentially useless if your identity hygiene is a mess. You've got to zero out domain machine account quotas and apply strict conditional access. If you thought the CISA report was bad, the latest intel from Truffle Security is terrifying. They analyzed over 10,000 publicly exposed AWS credentials, mostly sitting in code platforms and public AI datasets, and found that a staggering 88% of those exposed keys remained completely active. Even worse, the median age of these active credentials is 5 years old.
Over 900 of these active accounts actually had automated quarantine flags that organizations just completely ignored. Passive detection is failing, folks. You have to enforce service control policies to disable root credential generation entirely.
Compounding all of this is the massive rise of enterprise shadow AI. According to Akamai, nearly 47% of enterprise AI interactions are happening via personal accounts. Almost 15% of corporate email prompts are being fed into personal freemium AI tiers, which means your proprietary data is going straight back into public training models. Standard corporate identity federation is completely broken here because users are just bypassing it. Security teams need to immediately roll out group policy objects or browser-level policies to restrict unmanaged AI logins. Okay, let's transition to Section 4, AI and ML engineering. This is our longest segment today, and the platforms here are evolving incredibly fast.
Amazon SageMaker Hyperpod just introduced native integration for Ray on Amazon EKS. Data science teams can now spin up and attach Jupyter Lab environments directly to active Ray compute clusters. It comes with out-of-the-box Grafana observability, automated node recovery, and tiered KV caching. For platform teams, this is a huge win. You can totally bypass complex custom Kubernetes setups. But operationally, you have to apply strict IAM task governance. If you don't, ad hoc interactive notebook sessions will absolutely starve your expensive GPU distributed training jobs.
Microsoft also just detailed their architecture for giving native agent memory to Foundry agent service models using Azure Cosmos DB. By decoupling short-term thread IDs from long-term memory, they're solving context loss beautifully without needing massive prompt context windows. But persisting extracted user facts in a database shifts your security boundary directly to the application state. If you aren't strictly validating user principal mapping in your database queries, you're practically rolling out the red carpet for cross-tenant data leakage.
Over on Google Cloud, they've launched new FinOps features for Gemini Enterprise, specifically targeting agentic workflows where multi-step loops cause wildly unpredictable token consumption. We're looking at flexible savings plans with up to 20% discounts, and crucially, hard monthly project spending caps. Now, those hard caps are absolutely essential to prevent runaway bill shock, but architects, listen to me. You must combine these caps with custom fallback logic. If you hit a hard cap abruptly, active agentic state drops mid-execution. You need logic to ensure those loops degrade gracefully rather than just failing silently.
Interestingly, Anthropic and OpenAI both released major workspace administration updates this week. Anthropic launched Claude Unified Memory to sync context across tasks, while OpenAI dropped the ChatGPT admin plugin to manage permissions right inside a chat thread. They both consolidate operational convenience beautifully, but they concentrate high-privilege risk directly into prompt contexts. An indirect prompt injection in a Claude task could corrupt persistent organizational memory. Similarly, a compromised ChatGPT admin session could grant unauthorized API access. Strict API-level approval gates are literally not optional anymore.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, Emerging Tech and Hardware, looking at the physical standards powering our infrastructure edge. Apple officially unveiled its 2-nanometer M6 chip alongside the absolutely massive M5 Ultra. The M6 places dedicated neural accelerators inside each GPU core, signaling a huge push for highly localized AI performance, though it's capped at 32 gigabytes of memory. The M5 Ultra, though, it's a beast. A quad-die architecture with an 80-core GPU and 1.2 terabytes per second of memory bandwidth. The throughput is insane, but if you're running local large language models, sustaining that kind of execution on the Ultra is going to seriously test the thermal limits of small chassis cooling systems.
And a quick hardware PSA regarding fast charging protocols. Modern fast charging relies on complex digital handshakes to negotiate voltage. While open standards like USB PD 3.0 exist, many vendors still lock top speeds behind proprietary systems. If you plug a 100-watt rated flagship device into a mismatched proprietary power brick, that digital handshake fails. The hardware instantly falls back to a baseline protocol, and you get artificially capped at a sluggish 18 watts with zero warning. Standardize on USB PD 3.0 with programmable power supply, guys. It is the only way to ensure cross-device speed.
So stepping back and looking at all the data we've covered today, one uncompromising theme emerges. Automation requires strict governance. Whether we're dealing with AWS JSON policies overriding state, diagnostic agents traversing virtual networks, or AI models reading and writing persistent memory, the lesson is exactly the same. Automation without explicitly defined boundary governance invariably leads to disaster. So the big question you have to ask yourself this week is, are your automated systems currently acting as your best employee or your biggest insider threat?
I really hope these insights help you architect more secure and resilient systems. For even deeper dives into cloud, security, and AI, make sure to subscribe to @EILSTRI on YouTube. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.